On the next How Did It Happen show, I've got world-renowned AI and entrepreneur expert Manuj Aggarwal. We talk about him working in a factory at 15 years old in his home country of India, why it's crucial to get familiar with yourself, how he's been accused of thinking too big, and why artificial intelligence will always make the human experience better. Listen, watch, and enjoy. Hey, Manuj, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm excited too. I'm really glad that we got connected. I think it was our friend Justin Breen who connected us, and Manuj and I had a little conversation a week or so ago before we got started just to get to know one another, and it was really fascinating. And you heard a little bit about him in the intro, and now I'm going to tell you a little bit more about him before we get to the question. So Manuj Aggarwal is the founder of TetraNoodle Technologies. He's a business mentor. He's a leading authority on AI and machine learning. He's a 2-book author, at least 2 books, and a podcast host. He started his career at the age of 15. You heard that right, 15, working in a factory and earning $2 per day. While Manuj had no contacts or resources, he was determined to improve his life. With hard work and insatiable curiosity to learn new concepts, he continued to make stellar progress. His company, TetraNoodle Technologies, is a premium data science and AI consulting company. Manuj has worked with some of the biggest names in business, names like Microsoft, IBM, ING, and he's been listed among the world's AI leaders by Miami-Dade College. Manuj is also a mentor, a board advisor in many startups, accelerators, and entrepreneurship circles. He is currently the leader of the Vancouver startup community. And finally, Manuj is the host of the Bootstrapping Your Dreams podcast, one of the top podcasts in the world. So, Manuj, I start every podcast with the same simple question, and that is, how did it happen for you?
Oh, I mean, it has been, it's been a long journey. As you said, I started my journey back in India. And what triggered was one afternoon, during the lunch break, I was going through some business magazines. And I saw the success stories of these rich tycoons who have done like amazing things, built these tremendous companies. And that gave me some inspiration, although I didn't realize it at that time. But I looked at their stories, and I asked myself, what is different about these people? How come they are able to you know get this much success in life, and what is different about me? Obviously, there was quite a bit of difference. I had no formal education, no contacts, or anything like that. So but that sort of stuck in my mind somehow, and I started exploring other avenues of changing my life. And I found that in computers, in programming, um, I enrolled into a computer course, and the fee for that course was more than my year salary. So I was not able to enroll in it the first year, when it was introduced. So I had to collect enough money and then try again next year. And after I got into that course, like, I just fell in love. I knew that's exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And ever since, I've been working on the cutting edge technologies. And also, the other aspect of what I use is my knowledge of business, having worked in a factory where everything needed to be built at scale and everything needed to be coordinated between different steps of the process. All of that, at that point I didn't realize it. I was absorbing all of that, and my mind was sort of marrying all these different components: technology, business, manufacturing, all of that. And now I utilize that mix of backgrounds, mix of technologies, mix of understanding of human nature, into solutions that help companies grow exponentially or individuals grow exponentially. Basically, I just try to replicate my own success with my clients, with my people who I coach and mentor.
Hmm. So, phenomenal story. Let's start with the origin, though. This $2 a day factory job. Tell me, like, what exactly were you doing? How did you get into that? I mean, most of the people that are listening to this podcast are, fat, happy Americans who, just don't have, uh, maybe have no idea how to even contextualize your experience. So could you help us with that?
Yeah, see, growing up in a third world country or a developing country, it's you have to survive for, you have to fight for the basics of the survival, like uh, food, shelter, water. Even drinking water is in many places it's a luxury. $2 a day, frankly speaking, uh, we are talking about like 30 years ago. So two
Hmm.
dollars a day was not like a dirt poor situation. I could afford food and basic education and stuff like that, but at the same time I had to work 12 hours a day for it. I had to do everything that was needed to earn that money. And you know doing jobs like uh, loading 50 kilograms of steel components. So that this factory used to manufacture industrial fasteners built of steel,
Mm,
and each of those packages used to be 50 kilograms. So loading, helping load the trucks when the material needed to send out to the customers,
sure.
looking at the raw material coming in, focusing on the fuel supply, because the furnaces that used to heat the steel, they consumed a lot of fuel. So there used to be a huge tanker of fuel that used to be filled up every week or so. So all of these things you had to keep in mind to make sure that the factory is able to produce the fasteners or the goods at the right pace, at the right measurement. And then quality control was another aspect where these industrial fasteners, they are used to build bridges, they are used to build heavy machinery. So they have to be precise, they have to be strong, they have to satisfy certain specifications, industrial specifications. So you had to keep an eye on every aspect of the assembly line, even though it was not like a modern assembly line per se. But you had to
Hmm.
like pick samples every hour or so, make sure that you measure them, they pass the specification. If they don't pass the specification, then obviously there is something wrong along the assembly line. So you need to figure out, okay, where is the problem. And to give you a picture, this was all very manual work. So when I say assembly line, people may be thinking automated robots, CNC machines. No, nothing like that. It was like very heavy manual work in front of these hot furnaces. And I have a couple of pictures of those of the factory to give an idea of the environment we used to work in.
Oh, oh, I'd love to see the picture if you wouldn't mind. A picture if you wouldn't mind sharing. I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah.
Um, where you mentioned education, you had enough money for basic education. Were you going to school, or were you still being educated while you're working 12 hours a day in this factory?
Yeah, so it was like I had to figure out how to get the education. So after high school, I enrolled into a distance learning program where I used to like study over the weekends and evenings and stuff like that. And then I used to go for the exam every 6 months or so. So that was how I got the education while working.
I see.
Yeah.
And just for context, you were 15 at the time. Were there a lot of 15-year-olds or people that were your age at the time working in the factory as well? And how'd you get in? Was it a relationship or was it
Yeah.
just something that you did?
Yeah. So first of all, this factory was owned by my dad. He raised me as a
Mm,
factory worker because he came from a very he came from a very like conservative background, and he was raised very in a very strict manner. So he had a belief that, if I get educated, he I will not have the grit, or
Oh,
I mean
yeah.
whatever their, the whatever the parental sort of mindset was at the time. It was very very difficult for me to digest that, um, because it's one thing to, to say, okay, I was born as a factory worker, and that's my fate. But to be born as in that family and then raised as a factory worker, it was like, okay, you have access to these things, but only only after you are 30 years old or 35 years old. Until then, you have to live this life. So I have never I never actually experienced life outside of that identity as a factory worker. So
Hmm.
yes, there were many people.
Hey everyone, if you like what I'm doing with this podcast and want to participate in more of the things I'm thinking about and exploring, subscribe to my newsletter today. It's super simple. Just go to mikemalatesta.com right now, put in your email, and you will get the very next issue. It's short, thoughtful, and designed to inspire, activate, and maximize the greatness in you.
Of my age working in this factory, and even today, these I mean, in a developing country, you hear the stories of goods being manufactured by miners and all that. So that's still true. It still happens. You have to do what you have to do to survive. That's just the bottom line.
And what was there? We'll get into how you made your way to Vancouver, but was there ever a time or a discussion or plans for you to take over the family business, or become an executive in the family business, as opposed factory floor to the C-suite
Yeah.
sort of story?
That's always the carrot that is that is
Okay.
the carrot that
The
is shown to
carrot,
you.
yes.
But the thing is that, you have to realize these are very small businesses. So um, the these are very very tiny businesses in the context of
Okay.
Indian economy. Indian economy is nothing compared to the Western economies. So even if you have a business, you're competing with 2,000 other businesses within a kilometer, or within a 10-kilometer radius. Imagine, India has a population of 1.4 billion. Back then it was around a billion. So for every piece of resource, every opportunity, whether that's a job, whether that's a business opportunity, anything like that, there are thousands and thousands of people who are competing for that, right? So
Yeah, right.
so these are all businesses trying to survive, trying to, like, uh, like, put food on the table. So yes, there was a plan to become something in that factory. But then I saw that that goal itself was so small for me, that I needed to venture out, because even my own family had a very small sort of a vision of what life can be,
Yeah, okay.
right?
And when you picked up these magazines at lunch and you were looking at them and stuff, did you have discussions with your parents or your, I don't know what your sibling
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
situation is like,
yeah, yeah.
hey, what this is what I want to shoot for, and or was it sort of like, I better
Exactly,
not bring
exactly.
that
Yeah, yeah.
up? Oh,
It was an interesting conversation. It was like, first of all, who the hell do you think you are? uh, and then then the discussion changed and said, okay, whatever you want to do, you need to do it on your own. If you think you are worth it, then prove it. Then you And that's sort of the how my work at the factory sort of became solidified. And I said, okay, whatever it takes, I will do it. I'll go find a job in some other factory if you want. They said, hey, if you're gonna do that, just work as a factory worker in this factory. So I had to basically, raise myself uh, in a way to pay for whatever education I wanted, whatever resources I wanted.
hmm, okay. And how did that end up? manifesting itself in you, getting out of there and getting to Canada.
Yeah. So that's another interesting story, because what I find in life is, like, once you make up your mind and you work towards that, the universe starts to align. So that computer course where I enrolled in, I met my future wife, and she was a Canadian. And we belong to different religions. So society did not really like intercaste marriages back then. Even now it is taboo. But anyway, we got married, and after the marriage, we were having lots of challenges, once again trying to assimilate into the society, which was very rigid. So that's when we decided to move to Canada in 1998. I'm not able to hear you.
Okay. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
My mic muted for some reason. I'm sorry
uh,
about
no problem.
that. Okay, Manu. So when you came, how was it that like, how did you decide where you were coming? How did you get here? And then how did you what did you do when you got here? Help me understand
Yeah,
how
yeah,
it
yeah.
happened. Yeah.
So Vancouver, like, we had a few, like, my wife's side of family was in based in Vancouver, so that was sort of an easy choice, that we'll go to Vancouver and find work. So as soon as I landed here, back then, Craigslist, even now Craigslist is really popular for looking for opportunities. So I borrowed a computer and I started applying for jobs right away. So I used to wake up early in the morning and until late evening, apply all the jobs that fit my criteria, fit my skill sets. It doesn't matter, what they were offering. And so I got a job within 2 months of landing in Canada. That was a programming job, like a junior programmer. Um, and this was a company. They used to build software for greenhouses for the agricultural industry. And yeah, I used to take the bus 2 hours each way. So I used to spend like 3 to 4 hours commuting, and that was my first job. This was during the dot-com boom days, 1999 2000.
Okay, 2 hours. You say you were commuting 2 hours each way. Is that what you said?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
How did it feel when you got here? Like, or I say here in North America, but when you got to Vancouver, how much was it? How much culture shock was there? How long did it take you to feel like, I don't know, I assume you felt like it was home pretty quick. I mean, you're married and but how was that?
It was very strange. I mean, I had good conversational English, but as we know, like, every dialect, every continent speaks language differently. So
Yeah.
being in the workforce was, it was a learning curve where, people talked about it, they laughed on a certain joke, on a certain expression, certain tone that they use, right? Like, and I didn't get it. I was like, I don't understand what this means. But then I realized, if I don't make the effort of learning how people speak, how they interact, how they communicate, I will not be able to make much progress. So I made it a point to learn about the culture, to learn about how people interact, learn about the history of Canada, all of those things, so that I can talk intelligently with people and share my ideas. Because uh, I quickly realize, the technical skills that I have, they are a little bit secondary to first me building a relationship with somebody and building that trust, that, hey, this guy knows something about technology. If I just keep talking about technology or my skill sets, I'm not going to get much further, because I will be only evaluated based on the skills I provide. But then I knew that I had more to give. I had more input about business, about marketing, and those type of things. And that will only happen if I start to build better relationships. I start to take interest in what people want to talk about, and then provide some insights, or at least talk intelligently about those topics as well.
And so it's another, in other words, it's like connect with people on a human level
Exactly.
um, before you connect with them on a technical level.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And was your wife's family or parents there where you were? So you had support.
See, it's a very unique dynamic, and even from her family, nobody has ventured into, like, tech industry, or working with some of the leaders in the world. So even for them, it was kind of strange. Like, since then we have split up, and one of the reasons was that I was accused of thinking too big, or thinking too differently. And I don't know, it just success and growth is not everybody's cup of tea, I guess.
So that's interesting. Accused of thinking too big. What is that? Can you give me some examples of what you were, what the accusations might have been? I'm
I mean,
curious about that.
I like, again, it's a general thing where the concept is, hey, let's seek security. You have a job which is paying six figures. Let's stay there. Let's not rock the boat. Let's not do anything else. And I saw an opportunity to grow a business from six figures to seven figures and beyond. Also, not it's not just about money, but also your personal growth, your own growth, in a way that you can learn some skills that nobody in your family, even in generations, thought is possible. Nobody in my family thought it was possible that anybody from their family will be invited to speak in the UN next to a Nobel Prize winner.
Hmm.
Somebody will be listed among the top AI experts in the world. And so when I realized that it is possible for me, I had to struggle for it. I had to, like, put everything that I have into that. And then obviously that creates some level of insecurity, because as you are building the business, there's no income coming in. And even as you're building the business, it's not clear what exactly is happening. When are we going to get the results? When are you going to get that income that needs to be replaced now? So all of these things, they create fear in people, right? And the uncertainties and all that. So when you are faced with that, you have a choice whether you keep going or you quit.
Hmm.
And I have learned in my life, there is no success if you ever quit. If you make up your mind, you need to keep going no matter what. And eventually things work out. Something or the other happens. You meet somebody, or there is some opportunity opens up. But that will only happen if you keep going. So that is the discrepancy between growth mindset and fixed mindset, where people want to settle, they want to be secure. Whereas some people like me, they want to see, okay, what is possible in life.
Yeah.
Let's shoot for that.
And not specifically as it relates to your ex or not, but I'm just curious, as you were being, you know, quote unquote accused of this. Did you ever think to yourself, I wonder if they're right? I wonder if, or was it just like, I'm sorry, but this is just how I think? Because I'm
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to just put this on one person. So
no, no, and that's not what I meant.
yeah,
I meant just meant in
yeah,
general. Like, I'm sure she wasn't the only one who ever
yeah,
said,
yeah,
"Hey,
yeah,
you're a crazy man."
yeah, yeah,
You're,
yeah. No, I,
yeah,
I, I think that myself sometimes. I was like,
okay,
what the hell
yeah,
are you thinking? Like, when you don't see progress for weeks or months, and you just keep doing the same thing again and again and again. And you wonder what the hell is happening to you. But then there is a voice inside you, if you can listen to that. it tells you that you are going in the right direction. Just keep
Yeah.
going, one more day, just one more day, keep going. And then the other thing is, then you start meeting other people who are like you, and then they say, oh, you are like that, you had the same experience, I had the same experience. So let's talk about it. It seems like you are doing the right thing. Let me have a look. They provide you feedback, and now you're talking to the people who are on the same journey as you, and you are getting more validation. So that gives you much more fuel to keep going.
Yeah. So in other words, it's like get around people who don't think you're weird,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
You uh this quitting thing that you never quit that you mentioned. I was just listening today to Annie Duke. Have you heard of Annie Duke? The
No.
she's the author. She used to be a world champion poker player, and she
Hmm.
just wrote a book about quitting.
Yeah, yeah,
And her whole point was that this whole sort of grit, never quit thing is just kind of crazy because the best people, the most successful people actually know when to quit
oh yes,
something
oh
in
yes.
order to do something else. So it made me
Yeah,
think when you said that you quit the factory. What other things have you quit
yeah, yeah, yeah.
along the way to getting where you are?
That's a great question. Great question. See, one thing that happened, and I'll give you a little bit context behind it. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing happened in 2008. I lost a lot of money, lost, as did many other people. And at that time, I didn't have a lot of financial knowledge. So when that happened, I said, okay, I need to learn about how to manage my finances, how to manage my investments. And I came across this notion of a stop loss, meaning when you risk something, you need to have a number in mind where you say, okay, if this loss happens, if I lose 10%, or if I lose 20%, or some outcome happens by this date, that means I'm not going to go further with this, right?
Hmm.
But at the same time, you have a broader vision, so which you will continue to go towards. So means, I want to impact the world with AI. That is my big vision. Like,
Hey, everybody, just a quick pause here to let you know how much I appreciate that you've made time for my podcast. If you're not already a subscriber, please become one today. Leave a review and tell a friend. Now, let's get back to the show.
I want to impact billions of people with AI. But along that way, I will run multiple thousands and thousands of small experiments. Okay, is this going to work or not? And each of those experiments will have some sort of a notion of stop loss, which will tell me, did this experiment work or not? And if that experiment worked, I continue to double down on that. If that experiment did not work, then I just quote unquote quit on that experiment, right?
Okay. So you establish what I would call constraints around an idea. So
That's right.
if you're within the constraints, you keep moving forward. And if you're out of the constraints, you adjust or you
Yeah,
reverse or
yeah,
you make some type of shift
absolutely,
to get,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So TetraNoodle, how did that get started and what's it all about?
Yeah. So my company, I told you I got a job very quickly in the dot com boom time, but during that time, dot com bust happened just right around the corner, and I lost my job. And then I applied for another job in New York for a startup company. So I worked with them for about a year, and then September 11th happened, lost that job, and then it kept happening two or three
Hmm.
times. So I said, I used to think that there is something called job security in North America, but that doesn't seem to be the case. So I started my own company. This was back in 2000, year 2000, and it was called Spider Communications back then, because of the web was just new. So I thought of a name, tried to be clever with that. Uh,
I
but
like it.
but then so I started consulting with a lot of startups. I started consulting with a lot of companies. Microsoft being one of the clients, Pearson Education, which the project that we did for them it went into like hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. And I learned so much from those experiences. And in 2018, so everything was working great. Like, I had a small client base. They were coming to me through word of mouth. But in 2018, I lost my mom. So my whole family is back in India, and
Hmm.
I wanted to travel more to see my family on a regular basis. But my business was very local, and it was all word of mouth. So I said, okay, I need to figure out a way to get my name out there so I can be more location independent. And uh, and at that point as well, like, I didn't know much about marketing or sales, or how to grow a business um, from the ground up. And so I had to first of all change the name, because a lot of people, Spider Communications was a 20-year-old name, and people said, is this like a phone company are you running, or like a email software company?
Hmm.
I was like, no, no, no,
Okay.
it's more AI related. So I changed the name TetraNoodle. And what we do in that is, like, data is becoming the new gold now. Anybody who understands data, they are either they are at the forefront of their industry, or they are going to be. So the evidence of that is very visible to everyone. For example, Amazon is the number one retailer in the world, and they achieved that position in less than 20 years. It's a multi-trillion dollar company. And Walmart has been around for 100 years, and they have been overtaken by Amazon, because Amazon at the core is a data company. They understand data at a very, very granular level. They even optimize the route that their pickers take, the people who pick the items from the
Hmm.
shelf in the warehouses. So they track how they move, and they use algorithms to optimize their tracks. That's how efficient they are, right? So when you understand data, when you understand AI, you can optimize your business or even your life to that extent. And so most people don't understand it. Most people do not know what is this data science all about, what AI is all about, how can it improve the business. So that's where we come in, where we look at the data, we look at the situation, we look at the outcome that they are looking for, and come up with a way to implement that in such a way that it gets them the growth, the exponential growth they are looking for very quickly.
So I think most people that are listening would understand data as being important as a tool to sell stuff better to people. So Amazon's a good example. You start searching on Amazon, it quickly picks up on what's interesting to you, and then it starts showing you things that it thinks are interesting to you. Outside of that, what's the power in data
Yeah.
for Amazon or for any company, Manoj?
Yeah, that's a great question again. You see, our world is a very complicated world, and our human mind is not able to comprehend a lot of things on the surface. Meaning, let's take an example. If we touch the stove, hot stove, immediately we know, okay, it is going to hurt us, and that our mind is going to register one data point, that next time don't touch the stove. That's one data point. But now imagine that we are in Antarctica, and the gas temperature is no more than 50 degrees, and the wind chill factor outside is minus 30, and a whole bunch of other parameters come into the play. And then now we touch the stove, and it's like, oh, okay, it's pleasant actually. I feel the warmth now.
Mm.
And now you are incorporating multiple data points into your psyche to figure out what is right or wrong. And now when you extrapolate that into millions of parameters, like, and you want to understand how the weather works, how macroeconomics work, how people are going to vote for a particular politician, what kind of demand next year you will see for a certain commodity. All of these factors have so much intricacy and dependencies on number of factors, that our human mind is not able to comprehend that. So we
Hmm.
go with the least common denominator understanding, and we say, okay, my gut feel is that this is what's going to happen, so let's just go with that. But when you incorporate data, you don't have to rely on gut feel. It gives you the objective outcome and says, with 99% accuracy, I'm going to tell you that tomorrow it's going to rain, right? Or next year, the demand for wheat is going to be 200% of what it is this year, you know or this new product that you're selling, it will do much better if you sell it in red versus blue,
Mm-hmm.
these kind
Yeah.
of things. And then not only this, but you can actually start to see impact of AI and data on human mind. For example, how do we utilize data to raise the employee engagement? We are all working in remote environments, and a lot of companies are facing this challenge where their employees are not engaged anymore. You can utilize data to really understand what is going on in the minds of people. Like, you can use sentiment analysis to understand, what is the problem that people are facing, and then work on that problem to raise employee engagement, right?
Mm.
You can make your customers more loyal to you by speaking what core values they are what core values they value, right? Like, for example, Gen Z generation, they value much more social causes, you know uh, um, climate change, equality, these type of things. How do you discern that? You discern that through data, right? So and then you will see that, not getting into politics, but you will see that each and every year people are collecting data through surveys and exit polls, and time and again those exit polls are not accurate anymore. But then the same thing can be applied running Facebook ads, Google ads and things like that, and you can present your point of view in to the voters and say, okay, these are the issues I'm going to be working on. Do you agree with me? If so, vote for me. So now you can see how data and AI and all these algorithms are shaping public opinion, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in reverse as well, because our world, believe it or not, is actually being controlled by AI already, because the world runs on the information that general public consumes, the masses consume. It is not being edited, it is not being controlled by newspaper editors anymore, it is not being controlled by people, journalists in the field. It is controlled by AI. The algorithm determines what do you see on your feed, on Google News, on all the news site. That's the algorithm working, right? So
Right.
now you can see how data is actually intermingled with our society already.
And well, let me go here first. So, artificial intelligence, AI, do you think that's a good name for it, or do you think it should be something else? And the reason I'm asking is because I think people hear AI, artificial intelligence, and they think um, that it's a thinking tool, that it's a human thinking tool, as opposed to, uh, uh, well, I guess really a data collection tool. Um, so
Yeah.
correct me or tell me what you think about that term. Is that the right? Is that what you would have named it?
I think it's see, nomenclature is a very funny thing. It changes. It changes over time. So it used to be called data analytics. Business analysis. Like whole bunch of names. So I will not be fixated on the name as it stands today,
Mm.
but I will say it is somewhat accurate because, as I told you, I also study human mind, and when you study human mind, you will understand that in our minds there are neurons, and neurons, each of them, when they get a stimulus, meaning when I see something new, or touch something new, or taste something new, certain neurons will fire, and then they will interact with each other and they will vote, oh, this is a pleasant experience, or this is something I like to eat, or whatever it is. And that vote of multiple neurons, that gets registered in our mind, and that becomes our intelligence, right?
Hmm.
Now if 100,000 neurons fire, 20,000 may say, oh no, this is not a good experience, but 80,000 may say, oh, this is a good experience, and the vote will be counted as a pleasant experience in our mind. The same thing happened with AI, because yes, data collection is a huge part of AI project. In fact, 80% of the effort in an AI project is dedicated to collecting and cleaning data. But then after that, algorithms find very, very interesting patterns in that data, and then they figure out how the real world works, which is somewhat invisible to our mind, our naked eye, our human intuition. So a good example is, I worked on a project where we created 3D printed orthotics, which are custom orthotics for people with joint pains. And the algorithms were trained by physicians with minimum of 10 years of experience. But then, as the algorithm started to digest that information, learn from it, within a couple of months they became more accurate. The algorithms became more accurate than the physicians.
Hmm. Yeah, I've seen that in like reading MRIs, reading X-rays. Like, oh,
Sorry, can you repeat that?
yeah, I've seen that. I've seen a lot of reading X-rays, reading
Yeah, yeah,
MRIs.
yeah, yeah.
That they do better than. Well, they may not do better all the time yet, but going towards they do better than an actual physician because
Absolutely.
they've looked at more. Even a physician with 40 years of experience, you can feed the AI many more visuals than
Yeah,
that
yeah.
physician could ever process, right?
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. One more thing I noticed as I was working with the physicians, humans are fickle, because even if I have 10 year of experience in certain field, the performance on that day will depend how did I wake up. Was my morning a pleasant
Mm,
morning? Did I have a fight with somebody? Did I get cut off in the traffic? All of those things we carry with us during the day. you
yeah,
know
for sure.
and the algorithms, I mean, they are pretty objective. They don't get tired. They don't, they don't have arguments and things like that. So that's another factor.
And long term, there seems to be people who come down on like one side or another when it comes to AI. It's like I love it because AI's real goal is to make the human experience better.
Yes, yes.
Um, and then there's the other side that says AI's real role is to take over my life and my world. Um,
Well, so the answer to this is, let's go back in history and look at all the inventions, major discoveries that humans have made, right? So when we invented fire, it was to cook food, but the same fire can be used to burn down a house. When we invented the lever, it was to help us lift heavy weights. When the cavemen decided that, okay, we're gonna kill a woolly mammoth and eat for a month, they had to invent a lever to roll down a huge boulder that a human cannot lift, right?
mhm.
The car was invented to help us go faster. The printing press was invented to help us spread the information faster. So all of these things are helping us to scale our physical ability, right?
Yeah.
Our two hands and legs are only capable of doing so much, but with these machines, these discoveries, we are able to multiply our physical capacity. But AI is the only invention till date which is going to multiply our cognitive ability, right? So yes, there's going to be losses in jobs, but every time a new invention like this comes along, you have to upskill yourself, you have to adapt. Humans have become the most powerful species, not because of anything else but our ability to adapt. We have gone through the ice ages, we have gone through.
Just a short break here to ask you a question. Have you read my book? It's called Ownership: How Getting Selfish Got Me Unstuck, and it's available on Amazon, Audible, and everywhere else. If you're looking for inspiration that will help you unlock your greatness and potential, order or download your very own copy today.
The multiple multiple wars, multiple calamities, multiple things that have happened, but we are still here. We are the most dominant species because no matter what is thrown at us, we figure it out.
So where does it, in your mind, and you may not be a futurist, but I'm gonna ask this question as if you are. Where does it end? Will AI ever be as good of a human as a human can be? Or will the
So
human brain always, and thinking of the human brain and the way that it can causes us to think and enables us to think or adapts us to think, will always be ahead? And I know that's sort of science fiction-y a little bit, but I think a lot of people are scared of that. Like, they don't know where it ends. They like it
um,
when it makes their life easier. They don't like
yeah,
it when it makes them unnecessary.
yeah. So let me put it this way, right? Like, the thing is that we have, uh, before the advent of agriculture, our our evolution was solely dependent upon survival. Where are we going to
Mhm.
get the food today? That was the only thing on our mind. That's it.
Yeah.
After agriculture, we started accumulating resources, and we started thinking about, okay, how do I make myself more useful to society, valuable to society, so that I can get more resources, right? But at the end of the day, and you will realize that if everything was given to us, whatever we want in our life, all the resources, all the money and everything, we would rather spend our time doing things which we really like, spending time with our family, painting, listening to music, whatnot, right? So the idea behind AI is not to become a better human, but to take away that pressure to think. Rather, when AI becomes so powerful that most of the resources are available to us at a very, very, very cheap rate, very at a fraction of the cost of what we are able to get it for today, then our hearts and our emotions will become the mainstream thing that we drive for. Our hearts and emotions, our creativity, our connection with others, that will become more important, because right now we all desire that, but we have to put it on the side because we have to spend 8 to 10 hours working. You see
Mhm.
what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's
It's
where we are going.
okay. And that'll be an interesting place if that's where we end up, because I can appreciate the opportunity and the hours to explore creativity. Um, but there's also this thing called money that you have to earn, doing something. And it's interesting to me. Like, I guess theoretically, everyone could earn money being, using their creativity, which they kind of do now, but it's a lot of times it's applied to something that an AI could potentially do for you, or a robot enabled AI enabled robot or whatever. Um, yeah, it's an
So let,
interesting
let,
it's a
let,
thing.
let me let me give you some context on that as well, right?
Sure.
So, the purchase price of a good that you buy, almost 70 to 80% of the cost is just keeping checks and bounds on human beings. Like, let's take a car for example, right? The 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 whole economy is set up. Okay, there's going to be a mining company mining the ore out of a mine. Then that metal will get shaped into sheets. Then it'll be shipped to a car manufacturing company, and along the way there are so many processes that are just making sure there is no theft, there is no cheating, there is no
Hmm.
all of these things are just to keep check on human, uh, how can I say, behavior.
Yeah, right. Supervision, safety,
Exactly,
payroll, all of these things, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So now you can see, if all of these things are now eliminated, taken off the table, the cost dramatically comes down.
Mm.
Make sense?
Yeah, sure. So let me go a different direction, if you don't
Yeah,
mind. So
yeah,
you mentioned the power of the mind, and I have some notes here about, I want to get your thoughts on optimization and tapping into the power of the mind. we started off early on about you having, thinking big and not quitting and doing things like that. And I know you've done a lot of work in this power of the mind and optimization, peak performance, not just in computers or in technology, but in people.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm interested in your take on how to optimize people as people.
yeah. See, the very first thing is, we need, the first thing we need to do is we need to find out what drives people. Because what happens, again, this is related to how we were talking about how the economy is set up. The economy is set up to reward certain skills, and when we notice other people being rewarded more than us, we follow their path and we say, hey, that guy became CEO, now he's driving a BMW, I want to be CEO.
Hmm.
But they don't realize, if they try to emulate somebody else but their passion lies somewhere else, they're never going to be able to achieve the fulfillment they are seeking. Maybe they will achieve being a CEO, maybe they will achieve being, driving a BMW, but they will not achieve that fulfillment. And everything is driven off of that. Until you find fulfillment in your heart and your mind, you will keep striving for more. So the very first thing is you get familiar with yourself. The most important thing is self awareness. And when I say self awareness, again, people think that I know myself. I know I like blue, I like to eat, I like vanilla ice cream, I like all these things. But that's not self awareness. Self awareness is very, very deep inside. You go deeper inside and see what are the fears that you picked up during your childhood. What are the, what are the things you are afraid of, what embarrasses you. What are your true hopes, like where do, like, if there was no restriction on, you need to get a degree, you need to have these resources, in a perfect world, in a utopian world, where do you see yourself when you leave earth? What do you want to do? And then you work backwards from there, and then start to figure out, okay, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, how do I optimize these strengths? And then the after that, the key is, how do I build a community around me of people who can help me, who think like me? Because another aspect of the human mind is that grit and skill and experience alone is never going to get us there. The only thing that gets us there is when we are given something to us by somebody else. The human network is very strong. So if you think about it, even our life is given to us by our parents. Nothing that we have is produced by us. It's
Mm.
just our thoughts, and then through our thoughts and belief, we convince others to give us something. So when you become that, single-minded, and you become so determined, and you start becoming consistent in your approach, then other people start to gather around you, and now you can start to, transact with them. Now you start to collaborate with them, and then your mind also starts to remind you that, hey, you know you have something here that you can bring to the world, because so many people believe in you now.
And do you think that, so that's very interesting when it's sort of a work your way back from, like you said, when you leave Earth. So it's sort of like working your way back. Like this is, I guess, what I heard from you, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it's sort of like once you have a purpose for why you're here, you can build a framework around, or that supports the achievement of that purpose. Is that, I don't
Exactly,
want to put
exactly.
words in your mouth, but
Yeah, so I'll give you a very simple example to illustrate this, right? So let's say I want to go somewhere and I don't know the address. I have the GPS. The GPS is going to say, give me the address, otherwise
mm,
I don't know where to go. So most people, actually 99% of the people, have no address where they want to go. So first thing is, find out where you want to go, like what exactly what just said, and you heard it. What do you want to be, what do you want to have achieved by the time you leave earth? And now you put in that address. I want to impact 1 billion lives, right? My mission in life is to use technology to help 20 Nobel Prize winners, and 20 underdogs win a Nobel Prize. That's my mission, right?
mm.
Now, when I put that into GPS, just like GPS works, even if I take a wrong turn, it will recalculate the path for me. it'll say, oh, you took a wrong turn. Okay, it'll be a little bit of a detour, but you can take that
Yep.
road and then take a right, and then you'll be back on track, right? So life is just like that. So once you know where you are going and you keep pushing towards that, then you'll face challenges, you'll make mistakes, you'll do all these things, but then just like the GPS, you'll come back onto your path.
And let me shift gears to your podcast, Bootstrapping Your Dreams. So I've well, one, I want to understand why you started the podcast, because as a podcaster, I'm always interested in why other people started. But I really want to also dig into this sort of mix that you have in your podcast between you doing conversations with people like me or whomever, like Kara Golden, or some of the other people you've had on, and then these very short little couple of minute, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minutes, where it's just where you're just talking about something that I suppose is I don't want to suppose, but I'm assuming it's to be helpful to people. But it's an interesting mix, Manuj. So I'm always curious about how people cultivate
Yeah, yeah.
their podcast and their thoughts about it.
Yeah, I see. I talked about experimentation earlier. So when I started the podcast, it was pretty much interview style, 30, 40 minutes. And we got some feedback that, hey, it's good material, but sometimes it's too long. And it'll be good to have some shorter episodes. So I said,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we can do some shorter episodes. Then we said, okay, if you're going to do shorter episodes, out of a long episode, people generally, even when you and I listen to podcasts, we take away one or two nuggets, right? And we say, oh, that makes sense to me. So it's basically an experiment that we ran, that, hey, why don't we just put a couple of insights in a couple of minutes and then see what happens, because people are busy and they just want something to trigger their thought. So that's where that idea came from.
Hmm. It's a good idea. I've experimented with, where I am in the process now of doing like one conversation like this a week, and then I do a solo episode on Friday. It's a little longer than what you're doing, but for the same reason, and I do it, one, to have mix up in the podcast, but two, to give me an opportunity to express a thought or idea, or share a thought or idea that I've been exposed to in a compact
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
compact way, instead of someone having to listen for an hour to sort of get it.
Yeah, yeah.
Even though I really do, personally, I enjoy longer ones, because it really gives a chance to sort of wind into the things that I feel like
Yeah,
matter to well, they matter to me, at least.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
they matter to people.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. No, I find these conversations very, very insightful. Like, I think that's one thing I always tell people. If if you want to achieve something, have as many conversations as possible with like-minded people, right?
Yeah. You so much. I guess I want to end with uh, not only where you want people to connect with you, but is there anything that you want to leave us with that I haven't asked you about, or haven't asked you about in the right way? Because I want to make sure that that people get what you want from them.
Yeah, sure. First of all, if anybody wants to connect with me, just LinkedIn is the best choice, or they can visit my website, Manuj Aggarwal. So it's my first name, last name.com. But LinkedIn is a better choice. I'm fairly active on that. What I will say is that, people can achieve great things in life. First, cultivate the self awareness, uh, cultivate that belief in yourself, and learn how to communicate with others, because those are the two things which are the biggest barrier in us achieving fulfillment, or whatever, like material wealth, or emotional wealth, anything. First, self awareness and belief in yourself, and then being able to communicate to others, because once you are able to do that, your thoughts will land where they need to land in other people's minds, and they
Mm,
will start to accumulate around you.
yeah, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, Manuj. And for those listening, do what you can today to make your future your property, the future that you want to own.